Iraq is now the 8th most corrupt country in the world, 10 years after the invasion, which was supposed to restore the country. Millions of dollars are handed out in fake contracts, while locals contend with poverty, toxic water, and daily power blackouts. Kafanov now reports.
It is the land between twin rivers, ancient-day Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. And in Baghdad, there's no shortage of ways in which water is used. To wash cars, to clean shop fronts, to store freshly caught fish before they're gutted for sale. Everything, it seems, except drinking it.
Nobody drinks the city water because we know it's not clean. Since the war, I've had to rely on bottled water. What comes out of the tap is contaminated and makes us sick. How can we drink it?
Water is just one of the many services that's still lagging in post-war Iraq. Despite years of promises and billions of dollars spent on reconstruction, many neighborhoods lack sewage systems. There's no trash collection. In some settlements, there are barely any streets. Iraq's central power is sometimes on for as little as 2 hours a day. This mess of wires is a common scene all across Iraq. It connects homes to private generators. People have to buy electricity to cope with the hours of daily blackouts. 10 years after the war, it's a symbol for much of what's wrong with Iraq. A crumbling infrastructure, unreliable services, and a tangled web of bureaucracy and corruption. The energy crisis has meant more work for Abu Maria, an electrician who says he now earns about 4 times as much as he did before the war. The grid is in shambles and breakdowns are frequent, but he says the government is simply not serious about fixing it.
It's the citizens who suffer in the end, not the government. The services are so bad and the power system has really deteriorated. There were billions spent on fixing the grid, but there's little to show for it.
The government has promised improvements in public services, but officials say it's a monumental task.
The infrastructure has been totally neglected under the previous regimes, and the damage is enormous. There is a need to rebuild everything, and that requires tens of billions of dollars.
But the dollars are flowing, along with and largely because of oil. That's what accounts for most of the revenue in Iraq's $119 billion budget. Here at the Khalid refinery, production has more than doubled in the past year alone. It's set to grow even higher. Iraq's oil industry has been touted as one of the few bright spots in a country that's been plagued by brutal violence and rampant corruption. Transparency International ranks Iraq as the 8th most corrupt country in the world, which in part helps to explain why services are still lagging. Most of the reconstruction money was squandered through fraud and abuse. Just one example, the government awarded $1.7 billion worth of fake electricity contracts. It's a paradox that frustrates many Iraqis. Theirs is one of the wealthiest pieces of land on earth, but its people are some of the poorest. Nowhere is that contrast more stark than here. The Al-Tajiyat landfill on the edge of Baghdad. Many of the families living here have been displaced by the war, but now they're waging a daily battle just to survive. Services are simply non-existent.
The conditions are horrible. There are no schools for the kids here, no electricity, no real houses. To get a drink of water, we have to travel 4 kilometers. It's very difficult to live here.
For now, they must remain among the refuse, uncertain, like the rest of Iraq, as to what will come on the winds of change. Kafanov, RT, Baghdad, Iraq.